Quick question for you, what's better, the Bike Squad or the Outriders? Hello, welcome back to Planet 40k. In this video we're going to be reviewing the Bike Squad from the Space Marine Codex. We're also going to be comparing them to the Outrider Squad, as they're very similar in some aspects, so we're going to look into that, and of course we're going to be doing our Planet 40k star rating at the end of the video. Also stay tuned to the end of the video to see who gets the shout out of the day. That's going to be moved to the end of the video from now, guys, so if you're wondering what's happened to that, it's going to be at the end. So let's get breaking down this data sheet. So the Bike Squad, it comes at 5 power level or 30 points per bike. The unit size consists of between 3 and 8 models. You can also include 1 attack bike. Now these are going to of course be one of your fast attack options within your Space Marine Codex. So the actual stats of the unit are movement of 14 inches, weapon skill 3+, ballistic skill 3+, strength 4, toughness 5, wounds 3, attacks 1, leadership 7 and a 3+ save. With the biker sergeant getting an additional attack and an extra bit of leadership on top of that. And if you are taking an attack bike, it's going to have all the same stats except it's got 4 wounds with 2 attacks and a leadership value of a 7. So going down through the datasheet then, let's look at the war gear. So the bike sergeant and every Space Marine biker is equipped with a bolt pistol, a twin bolt gun and then the frag and crack grenades. Then furthermore, the attack bike is equipped with a bolt pistol, heavy bolter, a twin bolt gun and then of course the frag and crack grenades. Now we're not going to talk too much about the attack bike today because we have previously reviewed this. There will be a link at the end of the video if you want to check out that attack bike review. So let's go through those weapons then for the standard bikers. The bolt pistol, we all know what that is, a 12-inch pistol 1, strength 4, no AP 1 damage, very standard. Then the twin bolt gun, which is 24-inch rapid fire 2, strength 4, no AP and 1 damage, again very standard. And the frag and crack grenades as well, which we've displayed on the screen for you. Now there are some war gear options available for the unit. So firstly, the bike sergeant's bolt pistol can be replaced with one of the following. So it could either be a bolt gun, just to get more bolter fire coming out there, or one of the weapons from the combi weapons list. So you've got the combi flamer, the combi grav, combi melter, combi plasma and the storm bolter as well. So I've displayed all the points for each of those upgrades. We're not going to go through every single one of these guys, that will take quite a long time, because he's then also got the option of going for one of the melee options, which you've got the Astartes chainsaw, the lightning claw, power axe, power fist, power sword and a thunder hammer. Then finally you can take an actual pistol, which is the grab pistol and the plasma pistol, and if you are playing Blood Angels you can also take the hand flamer and inferno pistol. So plenty of ways to kit out a biker sergeant if you wanted to. Now if you wanted to kit out the actual Space Marine bikers themselves, they can all swap out their bolt pistols for an Astartes chainsword, which is pretty much strength 4 minus 1 AP and the damage being 1, but you get an additional attack per bike. So if you're playing more melee orientated, this may be the better way to go. Then furthermore, up to 2 of those Space Marine bikers can replace their bolt pistol with one of the following. So they can be taking one of the weapons from the special weapons list, that's a flamer, a grav gun, a melter gun or a plasma gun. And if you're playing from the Space Wolves chapter, they can opt to take a plasma pistol as well. So again, I've displayed those special weapon options and the point cost it's going to cost you to be doing those upgrades. Then finally, the attack bike's heavy bolter can be replaced with one multi-melter. Let's go further down in the datasheet. We've got the abilities next, which is Angels of Death. So because they are actually a biker, the bolter discipline will come into effect, so they can be shooting double shots at full range with the rapid fire weaponry. So that includes those twin bolt guns and any other rapid fire weapons that you're taking. You're also getting combat doctrines in there to be getting additional AP, depends on which battle round it is. For example, if you're shooting with those bolt guns, then in the tactical doctrine, which is turn 2 and potentially turn 3 if you opted for it, you'll get an additional -1 AP. They've also got a now show no fear and shock assault, so in the first round of combat they get an additional attack, which stacks quite nicely if you're taking those Astartes chainswords. Then they can also combat squad, so if you take a max unit of these guys, you can divide them up equally in half during deployment. So once you've actually seen your opponent's list, then they'll act as complete separate units from that point onwards. Of course you're only going to have one sergeant as opposed to having one sergeant in each unit. They've also got turbo boost, so each time the unit advances you don't need to make an advance roll, you simply just move an extra 6 inches. So no need to roll there. If you're playing Dark Angels, you can put them in the Raven Wing. So they're simply gaining the Raven Wing keyword, which will gain its own buffs, which we'll go over later in the synergy section of the video. Then finally, if you're playing Space Wolves, they get the Swift Claw keyword, and you can actually take max units of up to 15 as opposed to 8. Then finally, we're going to be looking at those faction keywords. So they can go into any chapter. Of course, they're a biker unit. They're also core as well. So lots of stratagems, lots of ways to buff them from characters and whatnot. So let's get into some of those stratagems that are available to the unit. From the Space Marine Codex, you've got Hit and Run Warfare for 1 command point. Using the movement phase, you select your biker unit that's fallen back this turn. They're still eligible to shoot even though they fell back. Pretty good. Only 1 command point as well, so that's quite cheap in a way. Then you've got Skilled Riders, which is also 1 command point. Used on a biker unit. If they advance and they're selected as a target of a range attack in your opponent's shooting phase, then it's just going to simply be a -1 to hit your bikers. As for some synergy, starting off with the chapter synergy, now you can't actually use them in the Death Watch, no biker units are allowed in this because they've got their own veteran bike squad. But other than that, they can be used in any chapter. I've selected 4 here that I want to go through. I'd say they've got the best synergy in terms of buffs and abilities. So starting off with the Ultramarines, with their Stratagem Sons of Guilliman, you select a biker unit. When you're shooting or fighting, they get to re-roll hit rolls of a 1. They're pretty easy, pretty straightforward there. They've also got the Squad Doctrines for 1 command point, again used on a biker unit, and it turns on all the doctrines for that battle round. So no matter what weapon you're using, it's going to have that extra -1 AP regardless of what doctrine you're in. Furthermore, their actual chapter tactic, which is Codex Discipline, gives them a +1 to their leadership and allows them to fall back and still shoot, although it will be at a -1 to hit. Now you could actually just use that Hit and Run Warfare stratagem to be able to do that, but that of course costs you 1 command point, whereas Codex Discipline is a chapter army-wide buff. The second one I wanted to talk about is the Imperial Fist. With their chapter tactic Siege Masters, you're going to be removing light cover from your enemy's armor saves, and of course if you're using bolt weapons, any unmodified hit rolls of 6 will score an additional hit. Now with all these bolt guns that you're going to have on these bikes, there should be plenty of 6s throughout the battle. They've also got Bolter Drill if you want to get even more hits. It is 2 command points, a little bit on the pricey side. But in the shooting phase, you select a core unit, very similar to the Siege Masters. Any 6s to hit with bolt weapons will have an additional hit. Then there's 2 stratagems that you want to be using with the Imperial Fist. First one is Close Range and Bolter Fire for 2 command points, using the shooting phase on a core unit again. Bolt weapons are going to be considered to have the pistol type weapon instead of the normal weapons, such as Rapid Fire 2 for example. So the reason for this is if you are in combat, you can actually fire them into combat without any need to actually fall back and shoot. So in your own shooting phase you're firing, then in your fight phase you're actually fighting as well. Then they've got Pain as a Lesson for 1 command point. Due to the fact that this unit is not a vehicle or a servitor, you'd simply give them a 6+ Feel No Pain save. Now the next 2 chapters work even better with bikes, going into the Dark Angels and in particular with the Raven Wing, because firstly bike units and Outrider units in the detachment gain objective secured when you're using an Outrider detachment, and of course because they get the Raven Wing keyword, they're going to be gaining the Jinx save. So that's going to be a 5+ invulnerable save if they move against ranged attacks, or if you advance with them, it's going to turn into a 4+ invulnerable save. They've got the chapter tactics of Grim Resolve, so if you didn't move, they're going to get +1 to the attacker's hit roll, and combat attrition tests for the unit are automatically passed. Then there's Super Doctrine, which is Sons of the Lion, Speed of the Raven. In turn 1, which is the Devastator Doctrine, they can not only add 3 inches of movement to your Ravenwing models, but also they're eligible to shoot in the turn that they advanced, and their weapons will be treated as if it was firing an assault weapon, so a -1 to hit there for doing all that. But if you've advanced, as we already mentioned with the Jinx save, you're going to get a 4+ Jinx save. You're going to be moving 15 inches as the normal move, then plus the 6 inches for the turbo boost. That's 21 inches and you're still firing. They've also got plenty of stratagems here. I'm going to go through some of these. Full Throttle, the first one for 1 command point, potentially 2 command points depending on how many models you've got in the unit. In the movement phase, after the Ravenwing unit has advanced, they can immediately make a normal move up to 12 inches, but they're not eligible to shoot or declare a charge this turn. Now this is if you want to get your guys into a complete different location. It could be for an objective, it could be for a buff, it could be maybe to get them within Psychic Fortress, or just blocking off some sort of area. There's lots of different reasons you may want to use this one. You've then got the Hunt for 2 command points. Again, it could be an extra command point, it can go up to 3. Depending on the unit size, and before the first battle round you select 1 single Ravenwing unit and they can make a normal move as if it was your movement phase, so that's pre-game, but you can't end up more than 9 inches away from enemy models. So this is particularly good if you kit them out for melee to get them really close very early on. You got weapons from the Dark Ages, 2 command points, a little bit too pricey for me, but if you are taking plasma weapons, then you're going to get an additional bit of damage per plasma weapon. You've then got Swift Strike for 2 command points, again it could be 3. In the fight phase, after your unit has fought, they can literally fall back as if it was their movement phase, and then continue to move as normal. So this is going to prevent them from being hit back from your opponent's units. Then you mustn't forget that you can get a Ravenwing Apothecary. Now we all know what the Apothecary buffs are. You've got combat restoratives to be regaining D3 lost wounds at the start of each turn. You've got an Arthesium aura for that 6 lost feel no pain save, and you can use that combat revival stratagem to be bringing a biker back each and every turn. Now the final chapter I wanted to talk about is the White Scars. Now they've got their chapter tactics, which is Lightning Assault, which gives the unit eligibility to be able to declare a charge even if they advanced or fell back. So if you're kitting these guys out for melee, this is going to be perfect. Also, they don't suffer any penalty incurred when firing assault weapons in the same turn that they advanced. They've got their super doctrine, which is devastating charge, so in the assault doctrine, potentially turn 3, then onwards, turn 4 and 5. When you're attacking with a melee weapon and you've either charged or heroically intervened, then you can add 1 to the damage characteristics of the weapons. Pretty good. That's going to make those basic Astartes chainswords damage 2. They've also got their fair share of stratagem. There's quite a few here as well, just similar to the Dark Angels really. They got Born in the Saddle for 1 command point. Used on a biker unit that's advanced, they can still shoot this turn. So very good, especially with that turbo boost. You're going to get the auto 6 inches of advancing and then still being able to shoot is pretty good. They've got Hunter's Fusillade for 1 command point, which turns heavy weapons and rapid fire weapons into assault weapons for the rest of that turn, which simply means that you can still advance with them and still fire when you normally can't do that. Then you've got Trigorium Thunderbolts for 1 command point, used on a biker unit. When they finish their charge move, each model within the unit can select 1 enemy unit within 1 inches of the model. You roll a d6 and any rolls of a 6 will suffer a mortal wound for that enemy unit. So very similar to the jump pack version, the Hammer of Wrath. This one's for your bikers. Now as for some actual character synergy, you've got a captain on a bike here. Because there's not an actual model, I've used the actual White Scars captain in the photo here. They've all got the rights of Battle Aura. So core units within 6 inches get to reroll hit rolls of a 1, pretty standard. You can also use a chaplain on a bike. Now the 2 I quite like to use are the Catacomb of Fire for core units within 6 inches to get a +1 to their wound rolls for their ranged attacks, or the Recitation of Focus to get a +1 to the attacker's hit rolls at range. And if you were going melee, there's other litanies there that will aid you there. Now before getting on to the summary and all that kind of stuff, I wanted to talk about the Outriders, how they compare against the Bike Squad. So let's firstly bring back their stats. We've already gone through the Bike Squad stats and how much they cost per model, but as for the actual Outriders, you're getting 3 of them in a unit. They're 50 points per model, but the main difference here in terms of their actual stat line is they get an additional wound and an additional attack. As already mentioned, you're going to get 3 models in a unit of Outriders, whereas in the Bike Squad you can get up to 8, and that's not even including the attack bike option, which I've taken that out for this comparison because there's no real need to bring it here. Of course the points is also different, 30 points per bike or 50 points per Outrider. And then finally the last difference here is the actual base size. The Outriders have a larger base, which might not seem like a huge thing, but you're going to make your charges a lot easier. You can spread them out a bit further. They only need that 2-inch coherency, so they're going to be covering up a little bit of a larger area. However, there's less of them, so it sort of swings on roundabouts the way you look at that one. So let's check out the actual differences. Now what I've done here, I've taken a full unit of 3 Outriders, which costs 150 points, and I've also taken a unit of 5 bikers with chainswords. So I've removed the bolt pistols, put the chainswords in, and that's also going to cost you 150 points. So you've got 3 in the Outriders, 5 in the standard bikes. So this is what you're going to get from that. So with the Outriders, you're going to get a total of 12 wounds because they're 4 wounds each. Whereas with the 5 bikers having 3 wounds each, that would make 15 wounds. So you're going to get 3 additional wounds there with the standard bikers. As for the actual range attacks, with the Outriders you're getting 12 range attacks with their twin bolt rifles, whereas you're going to be getting 20 range attacks with the 5 bikers, although they are only twin bolt guns. They don't have the extra bit of range and the extra bit of AP. Now the Outriders are also carrying those heavy bolt pistols, which are only 18-inch range, and the standard bikers, a couple of those guys can also have special weapons. I'm not included those with these figures here. This is purely the bike weapons alone. As for the melee side of it, if you're on the charge with the Outriders, you're going to get 19 melee attacks as opposed to 16 with the standard bikes in the first round of combat. Then in the second round of combat, then the Outriders are only going to be getting 10 and the standard bikes are going to be getting 11. So there's not much in it, and if the Outriders don't actually make the devastating charge, which is their main ability to get 2 additional attacks per bike, then they're not going to be getting 19, it will go down to 13. Comparing those weapons, the Outriders can take the heavy bolt pistol as well as a a chainsword, whereas the actual standard bikes need to replace the bolt pistol, not as good as the heavy bolt pistol, so they can only have one or the other in terms of a bolt pistol or a chainsword. The Outriders twin bolt rifle is obviously much better than the twin bolt gun as mentioned. Then the final noteworthy mention is the fact that the Outriders are a Primaris unit, so they can be using that transhuman physiology stratagem. Advantages of using the actual bike: they can be taken in units from 3 models right up to 8 models if you wanted, so it's a little bit more versatile. They've also got the extra option of having the attack bike, plus all those special weapons as well. Not just the melters and whatnot, but also the actual biker sergeant, he can be upgraded to almost any weapon. Then finally you can combat squad the bikers as well. So for me there's not much difference in it. I would say that the Outriders do slightly pip it, especially in melee on the charge with those 19 attacks. They've got more of a punch, but as for a more all-round unit, I do think that the bikes are actually better in my opinion. You're getting more wounds, you're getting more ranged attacks, and not only that, you're getting more models. So if there's a high damage weapon that's firing at your unit, you can't be passing damage onto another model, whereas the Outriders, you're just going to simply remove one of the Outriders, which is going to be a 50-point model gone, whereas if you were to remove one single biker, it's only 30. So that's my comparison with those two bike units. So let's get on with the summary today. Starting with the good, they got 14-inch speed, with 3 wounds apiece, which I think is pretty good value in my opinion. They've got the speed, they're also core, so you can very easily buff them with all sorts of characters, all sorts of stratagems. Any chapter as well can be pretty much buffing these guys up. They can combat squad as well if you take a max unit, which could give you a bit of flexibility on your deployment. And we mustn't forget that bolter discipline also works on bikes. They've then got options for those special weapons as mentioned, so you've got the melters, the flamers and whatnot. So it makes the unit very customizable to the way you want them, and you can effectively also hide an attack bike within the unit. If you had a single lone attack bike on its own, it's going to get targeted, and once it does take damage it's got to be removed. But if you're hiding it within a bike squad, you can start taking off the bikes first before you actually get to your more expensive attack bike. We've already mentioned the chapter synergy. They've got great synergy in particular with the Dark Angels, with the Raven Wing, as well as the White Scars. And then we've just done all the stats and figures. They compare pretty well to the Outriders, slightly lacking in the actual weapon department, but they do make up for it in other areas. As for some bad points, they're not Primaris, so you can't be using any transhuman physiology stratagems on them. They've got no standard invulnerable save. To be honest, not many fast attack options do have an invuln save, but you've got to point it out. Going back to those Outriders, they've got a better initial punch, especially with the devastating charge. 19 attacks on the charge is quite a solid amount of attacks, and this bike unit, even on the charge, doesn't match that. Those Outriders also outrange the standard bikes because of their twin bolt rifles. They've got a 30-inch range as opposed to a 24-inch range twin bolt gun. Then finally, the bike squad just simply aren't the shiny new units. Now, they're old school, the firstborn bikers, whereas the Outriders came out with 9th edition, so a lot of players have flocked towards them because they're the nice shiny new model. So before we get onto the rating, again I'm going to mention the attack bike here. We've not really said much about the attack bike, again because we've done the review in a separate video. It is actually a very solid option, so just bear that one in mind before we actually do the rating. And in fact, before we do the rating, we need to do the shout out of the day before we forget. This one's going to Sam Dobbin for his comment relating to the drop pod review that we've done recently. He likes to put his firstborn captain, command squad and veterans in the drop pod and go for a first turn charge. Fair play. So getting back onto the bike squad's star rating today. I do think they stack up pretty well against the Outriders. I'll probably say the Outriders are about a 4 star at the minute, so I'm going to go with the Planet 40k rating of a 3.5 star. So guys, here's the link for the attack bike video if you want to check that one out as well. So sub if you are new, like the video on your exits. Thank you all for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.